Hi friends of Rice's, I'm Brad with Rice's More Than Floors, and today I'm going to go on a deeper dive into transition pieces. So transition pieces, a lot of nuances to them. They can definitely cause a lot of headaches, tripping hazards, all that good stuff. So there's a lot of planning that goes up front, maybe even prior to you starting a home, let's say, or a remodel. You need to know what your expectations are so that we can meet those expectations and our installers can. These manufacturers are thinking of a lot of scenarios, but they can't cover every scenario. And with these floating floors, it's pretty rare that you're going to get away with no transitions or not some sort of bump in the road there. So you want to plan ahead. So the number one thing that's skipped on most jobs or many jobs are the end caps. So the end caps, or the square nose, they'll call them. Sometimes thresholds, another thing they'll call them in the industry. But we're going to stick with transitions and the word end caps. So end cap, this is the traditional one here you see in the floating floor world. You can see it's square on this side, and then the floating floor goes here, and the floating floor can expand and contract. From that particular point, the carpet, let's say, if it's carpet on this one side or any vertical obstruction, the carpet gets rolled underneath itself. It gets rolled and tacked to that. So it's called a turn and tack. There's also a Z-bar application too. So they turn and tack to an end cap in a carpet application. This one is skipped a lot. I see it missing on bids out there. If you don't want a warranty or don't care, go ahead. Just skip it. But third-party inspector comes in, whether I hire them, the manufacturer hires them, or you hire them direct. When they see that there's no transitions, it doesn't matter if it's a finish-related problem or end joint-related issue, they're going to deny it immediately. So you're throwing good money at that. So that's one version. Another version of an end cap, sometimes they call them multi-purpose too. This one here is another version, and it's got a track along with it. So that track can get put down and this snapped into place. A lot of times the installation craftsperson like to use the Wacal, and this Wacal adhesive can glue down these transitions. Especially important on concrete floors, makes it really easy. Stuff is very sticky and works. So definitely consider that. Here's that threshold piece. This happens to be an end cap. That's called a threshold in the industry, and this one's one you just nailed on, but solid wood. My favorite one today would be something like this. This one happens to be metal profile, very up-to-date, sleek look. So this can go up against your vertical obstructions, maybe like a door threshold or a carpet. Your carpet can be turned and tacked up to this side, and on this side of it, the floor can slide into and then still free float. So it can still free float and move, not voiding any warranties. Very clean look. You can maybe coordinate this with your fixtures. Not a ton of colors in this world, but it is a better option, a much better option to allow for this floor. This one happens to be a 12 millimeter heavy duty AC5 laminate waterproof. So that's a great option for that. Now I'm going to jump into stair nosing. Stair nosings always seem to be some sort of headache with that, with overlapping versus flush. So I'm going to start with, like, you see more in the carpet and sheet vinyl world, or AKA linoleum is another way, resilient. So what you have here is your traditional nail down. So this one happens to be a titanium, and this would cover up the substrate, the underlayment, typically 1/4 inch, and then your sheet vinyl. So you'd install all that and then nail this in place. That's a traditional version. The more up-to-date version that's out there is this version. This is a fun option, a good look. Maybe not for everyone, but in my opinion, it's a good look. This particular version is a 3 millimeter on top. And what you do is it's your substrate, and then it's your underlayment gets installed, and this gets installed on top. Now your sheet vinyl, or AKA linoleum, gets installed in there. So much nicer look. No exposed fasteners, more up to date. Today's sheet vinyl, also known as linoleum, it's not your grandmother's sheet vinyl. It's pretty amazing. Probably one of the most stain resistant products that we offer today. Here's another same version of that. This one happens to be there's a deeper throat on this one here, so that can receive that groove can receive a 5 millimeter thick product, 8 millimeter we have. So that's a really nice option in the floating floor world. We'll touch base on that next here. In the floating floor world, here's what we would call an overlapping stair nosing. So floating floor goes in here or just sits in here part of the way through and can expand and contract through the seasons. This is glued down, sometimes pinned down also. That's what they call an overlapping nosing. Very, very typical at the very top step. Not as typical going down a flight of stairs if that's the application. There's another overlapping stair nose here. So this stair nose has a track. Put the track down, then lock this in place. And within this world, they make these in flush mount. The issue with the flush mount is not on every application can you use it at the top stair. Some vinyl planks and some products you can glue down partially part of the floor at the very top. Maybe, let's say a 3x5 area, you glue down with a specific glue, and then you would glue down your flush mount. So some of the issues with that though are that you end up having to start there a lot of times to lock in properly, so it's a little bit funky. And it does work. It does work. That's why I prefer the metal versions at that very top step, especially if you're going down the rest of the flight, because now your floating floor can fit in here. See if I can get this to work while I'm holding the camera. Floating floor can go in, expand and contract, and then these can be used down the stairs the rest of the way. Oil rub bronze and titanium are two main colors that have access to. Stair nosing in the tile world, common one. Here's a flat black version. This way here, this covers up the substrate and the Ditra, and then we just order it for the depth of the tile. So maybe tiles 3/8 or 1/2 inch, we get this depth ordered, and then a finish that coordinates with the tile, or a finish that coordinates with the rest of the finishes in the home. That's a great way to finish off the edge of the substrate, the Ditra, and the tile edge are covered up. In the real hardwood world, and I'm talking 3/4 inch solid and engineered, you'll get a flush mount stair nosing. So this one happens to be a solid 3/4 inch nosing. Not the same species of wood here, but this is just tongue and groove. And now you would just tongue and groove this together. Well, maybe I can do it. This locks together like that. And then that would be glued down. So now you have a flush transition. That's beautiful. That comes in solid typically, and you'd get that available in an engineered. So engineered and solid wood floors are real wood. More options when you're gluing those down, stapling, or fastening these down. It's the floating floor world that causes a little bit more of a challenge. Moving on quickly here. Let's see, what do we got? Reducer here. So again, same concept. Floating floor goes in here, moves, expands, contracts, and you have your reducer to go down from maybe your higher laminate or luxury vinyl plank down to a floor that's lower. Or in some cases you go the opposite way with it, and maybe your tile is higher over here, it's already been installed, and you're putting in maybe a luxury vinyl plank, and it's lower than your tile, right? So now you can just flip the reducer around. So this works out well for those applications. Another reducer is this version. This is for solid again. So solid wood floor engineered. It kind of just, they just flow up better because those floors are fastened or glued. That's that one. T-moldings. T-moldings, very common one is here, this wooden one. It's a wooden T-molding. That'll be between two floors that are flush with each other. So they've got approximately the same. If you get a little bit of difference, that's okay. And then that particular product can be nailed down or glued down. Here's a T-molding with a track. So this is a very common T-molding you'd find in a luxury vinyl plank world that has a track to go along with it. That's a common one. And my favorite is this version. If you've got two floors going in, you have two floors going in, maybe a 5mm plank and a 5mm tile look in the bathroom. If you plan ahead, you can make this T-molding work. That's a very sharp look, very low profile. We actually have a couple of these on our display floor currently in 2023 installed for between the transitions between some of our click floors that are shown up front. So that's newer concept. I would consider this too a T-molding in a way. you know, a little carpet bar or a threshold is a flat metal, a couple different widths it comes in, and that's that traditional nail down. And you might see this between a carpet and vinyl potentially in some applications, or just covering something up is where I see this used often. Staying in that carpet world, here is a tap down with pins. So what this would be is that carpet's stretched in. Usually on concrete, we're seeing more of this used, so concrete or gypcrete typically. You would stretch your carpet in, tap it down. Maybe this is going down the sheet vinyl or nothing. That's where you see it. So a lot of times in carpet. They have pinless versions too, a couple different colors. Pinless is for when we're doing glued down carpet to zero, and then they make these inflexible. So that's a very common tap down with pins, they'll call it. Pound down, tap down with pins is a common thing. Quarter round. Here's a quarter round and a base shoe. I'm going to cover both of these at the same time so we can get zoomed in. So quarter round here, what that is a quarter of a round. So it would be 1/4 of a round circle. This base shoe here kind of can be turned two different directions. See, it depends on the actual gap you're covering. So maybe you'll see this along cabinets, on a remod, maybe on a door threshold too. Just vertical obstructions to allow this floor to move and expand and contract, or even, let's be real, outside walls are moving and expanding. So always remember when installing these, you nail in through the product into the wall, not into your floor and your floating floor, even in the hardwood. You want to get that into the wall, not obstructing the movement of the floor. Last but not least, it looks like this one we call an inciso, or a 5-in-1, 4-in-1, depends on the transition. And as you look closely, you can see that you can make a T-molding out of this by removing this piece or that piece. You know, remove this piece and you have a reducer, remove that piece, you have a square nose. So there's a special tool that comes with it. We cut it and modify it. Maybe you needed a 3-foot T-molding and a 3-foot reducer. What a perfect thing to purchase. Not available in all manufacturers, but it is something that you'll find that is just standard and you just make what you need. So that's a pretty cool thing. It's been out for quite a few years. That's all I have for you today on transitions, but it was a little bit deeper dive into it to help our team and customers understand. And there's a lot of planning that goes into this early on. So if you're building a home, come to us early, very, very early, prior to even going to maybe an architect or engineer. You need to plan ahead. If I don't want any transitions, we're going to have to think this through. We're going to have to possibly build this floor up or choose a different floor. Maybe we have to go with the glue down version. Hardwood and tile, yes, it's not as hot as it once was, but there's a lot more ways to manipulate hardwood and tile to make those transitions smoother or flow better. In the luxury vinyl plank world, the floating floor world, it's tough. Just whatever you do, do not skip the transitions. It's very, very important. Thank you, and stay present.